Speaker 00 begins by discussing a lake, initially describing it as a natural feature, but later suggesting that human intervention may have contributed to its expansion. Despite these alterations, the lake retains traces of its original state. Tourists visiting the lake report strange occurrences, prompting an investigation into the mysterious phenomena. The narrative transitions into a story, setting the scene at a picturesque lake where a tourist embarks on a trek. Speaker 0 recounts a tale about a boy attempting to impress a girl. He speaks of a lake and a nearby village, hinting at historical significance and the potential discovery of old artifacts. The girl hesitates but eventually agrees to accompany him. The boy's sister, named Fane, is also mentioned in the story, though her reaction to the situation is not fully elaborated. The narrative unfolds descriptively, focusing on the dialogue and actions of the characters. The speaker introduces a plan but expresses difficulty in executing it due to opposition. A doubled village is mentioned, and the speaker conveys a strong desire to see it. They then describe a search for something essential to the plan, suggesting a collaborative effort to locate it. Since the conversation is in a language other than English, some details remain unclear due to the language barrier. A vivid scene follows, where a character, presumably the speaker's father, dives underwater and resurfaces with a bicycle. He then encounters an old man whom he believes to be the bicycle's owner. The old man is delighted to reclaim it, but as he excitedly goes to show his friend, a hand suddenly grabs him and pulls him underwater. The speaker's father witnesses this and attempts to rescue him, but the grip is too strong. Eventually, he resurfaces and calls for help from a friend on a boat. The speaker then describes a distressing situation involving a character named Fan, who experiences a mental health crisis. Fan is deeply affected by an incident where someone, identified as Jeffo, falls from a cliff. The shock and sadness weigh heavily on her. A sudden event follows where Fan's bike is taken, adding to her distress. The narrative shifts to Fan's treatment, mentioning a stay in a mental hospital. The speaker highlights the lack of family support and the sense of isolation Fan experiences. There is an implication that she received inadequate care, as it is mentioned that she was sold to a mental hospital before eventually being taken home. Finally, Speaker 00 recounts the struggles of a family coping with the loss of their son. The father, deeply engrossed in his business, finds it difficult to process his grief alongside his wife. They attempt to arrange a proper funeral but encounter obstacles. The mother explains that since they were unable to recover their son's body, they conducted a memorial service using his belongings instead of a traditional burial. Hero recounts a story about a mother, Mome, whose child was taken away. She initially sees someone pulling the child away by the hand. Despite her desperate pleas for the child to stay and assurances that everything will be all right, the child disappears. Mome's search for her missing child proves futile, leaving her in despair. The narrative focuses on her deep emotional distress and the painful, unsuccessful attempt to find her child. The speaker then searches for information about a leak related to Mom's AdNet. The findings reveal that the leak is highly dangerous, causing numerous deaths. Following this, the speaker recounts a dream in which they discover Mom's candle broken. In the same dream, the speaker's brother is ill, and they hear unexplained noises. Upon investigating, they find nothing. Later in the kitchen, they notice a leaking faucet, which they try to fix but fail. A woman named Mome hears noises coming from a pool. She notices a leak and attempts to fix it, but the problem persists. Suddenly, she hears a distressing sound and sees a child drowning, calling for help. The speaker describes the child's condition as serious, mentioning a head injury and desperate cries for assistance. Overcome with distress, Mome informs her husband about the incident. Speaker 00 recounts a surreal experience, insisting that it wasn't a dream despite others claiming otherwise. The central concern revolves around finding her missing son's identity. She explains the urgency, believing that until the identity is found, his soul will not rest in peace. She describes a week-long police search that yields no results. The conversation highlights her emotional turmoil and determination to bring closure to the situation. Speaker 0 expresses concern, comparing it to a preoccupation similar to Phaon's state of mind. They mention being busy and trying to avoid complications. The discussion shifts to a missing person, possibly a brother, and Speaker 00 suggests launching a search. Mentions of an office and past conversations indicate ongoing efforts. Speaker 0 expresses a strong willingness to participate, emphasizing the need to act quickly to find the brother's body. A figure named Mom is also referenced as being involved. The speaker then recounts a dream about a deceased individual. The dream revolves around the inability to give the person a proper burial, leading to lingering feelings of unease and incompleteness. The speaker describes the body's decomposition and the absence of a proper funeral, expressing concern and a deep need for closure. The dream ends with the speaker searching for the deceased's home, symbolizing a lingering connection and unresolved grief. Speaker 0 recounts a story about a family's escape. Two individuals sit in a boat, seemingly trapped in a confined situation, unable to use the oars. A woman suggests a daring plan. She will tie a rope around her waist and swim, pulling the boat along. She instructs the other person to remain in the boat unless she surfaces. If she doesn't return, or if the rope is pulled, they must immediately retrieve it. The implication is that this escape plan is risky, relying on the woman's strength and the other person's quick response. The speaker describes an experiment involving wax in water. Initially, the wax sinks, but later rises, indicating a shift in buoyancy. This change is attributed to a specific location, Jigarbur, which appears to trigger a reaction with the wax. The speaker then suggests moving slightly further to an area associated with a cycle, Psychologa. The wax sinking again confirms the presence of the cycle and the significance of the location. Additionally, the speaker mentions a chain, Cheen Badiu, found in a particular alley, gully, within the area. The next segment describes a mother's desperate attempt to save her child from a dangerous situation. The mother, possibly referred to as a mome, potentially a term for a mother animal, struggles to retrieve her child from the water, but is initially unsuccessful. An elephant intervenes, seemingly assisting her, but after a prolonged submersion, the child's body surfaces. While the mother is relieved to have her child back, the scene remains tragic and unsettling due to the child's prolonged time underwater. Her grief is evident, even as she holds on to a small sense of relief. Authorities arrive at the scene, with the police and ambulance responding. A police officer, identified as Hainan, is present. The speaker recalls a conversation with the mother, who expresses frustration that it took a week to search for her son, yet the body was found in a single day. She mentions another detail involving a stone and a chain recovered with the body. The chain was given to Shia Neef, who recognizes it as belonging to an old family. The area where the body was found was once a village, suggesting that the chain could be a relic from that time. The family's name is inscribed on the chain. Speaker 00 suggests visiting a distant woman who might have useful information. They mention a car's black shop, possibly a car repair shop, but are unsure of its significance. The conversation then shifts to discussing a lake, with Speaker 00 expressing a strong desire to learn more. A larger woman is mentioned, claiming that people in the area are reckless and lack the skills to navigate safely, often putting themselves in danger. Speaker 00 counters this by insisting that their relative was not careless and was, in fact, an experienced navigator. Speaker 00 describes witnessing a body at a crime scene, carefully noting its condition and suggesting the possibility of a deliberate drowning. Nearby, oil stains are visible, seemingly linked to a building close to the scene. A woman, identified as the victim's grandmother, is present and provides insight into the victim's family history and their former residence. The speaker reflects on the family's past happiness and how a business venture significantly impacted their lives. However, the narrative is left incomplete, ending abruptly. Speaker 00 then shifts focus to the consequences of a dam closure, emphasizing the severe financial losses and resulting shortages. The speaker explains that the dam's failure led to extensive testing, ultimately forcing the villagers to abandon their cattle due to a lack of viable alternatives. The closure also caused the loss of homes and livelihoods, with authorities taking drastic measures to remove villagers from their land, leading to several deaths. The narrative concludes with the sudden and unexplained disappearance of a group of people, including the speaker's relatives, leaving behind unanswered questions. The discussion continues with the history of the dam project. The speaker describes how construction was repeatedly delayed due to persistent leaks that worsened over time, preventing the installation of essential antennas. The rocky terrain posed additional challenges, further delaying the project's completion. Despite nearly 70 years passing, efforts to build the dam persist. The speaker questions the feasibility of continuing the project, considering the outdated plans and changing circumstances. Despite ongoing legal battles, the completion of the dam remains uncertain due to the many obstacles encountered. Speaker 00 expresses concerns that if the leak remains uncontrolled, it will expose the cruelty and injustices perpetrated by a wealthy individual. They believe that revealing the truth will bring to light the exploitation and suffering endured by many. The speaker mentions that the wealthy individual's family is actively working to suppress the leak and prevent the truth from emerging. Facing opposition from a powerful and influential family, the speaker acknowledges the difficulty of challenging their authority. The mere mention of this family's name provokes strong reactions, indicating the far-reaching implications of the leak. After returning home, two individuals are questioned by their family about their prolonged absence. Their worried relatives comment on their disheveled appearance and express concern over their whereabouts. The family also inquires about their involvement in resisting the dam's closure, particularly their connection to a woman referred to as Femis Diad. While they admit to not knowing the full details, the family expresses their reluctance to let the leak continue. They then question whether the leak was truly necessary. In response, the person responsible for creating the leak explains their reasoning, shedding light on the motives behind their actions. 00 describes the consequences of heavy rainfall in a city, explaining that excessive rain leads to flooding, making it impossible for people to enter. Despite these conditions, some individuals still attempt to find a way in, highlighting the difficulties posed by the weather. The speaker then shifts focus to a different topic, discussing people making excuses and urging someone to fight against an unspecified issue, possibly referring to an injustice or a difficult situation. They reference a past event involving numerous deaths, potentially caused by a wealthy individual, emphasizing the severity of the situation and their deep concern. The speaker recounts a tragic story about the death of a son. They describe witnessing multiple bodies and initially struggling to understand what had happened. The confusion among the people is evident, with the speaker suggesting that the situation could have been avoided if a particular condition, not clearly specified, had been met. The speaker also expresses frustration over financial losses, attributing them to a specific cause, Sibisli. The grieving mother is initially unaware of the full circumstances surrounding her son's death. However, upon learning the truth, including the involvement of certain individuals, Fain Kider Kidada, she is overcome with shock. Ultimately, the speaker states that the mother now fully understands why her son died, implying that foul play was involved, and Atmauka Bedelha. Speaker 00 then tells a story of intergenerational conflict and revenge. A grieving mother who lost her son believes that his death is a punishment for the sins committed by his grandfather. She holds the grandfather responsible, convinced that his past wrongdoings have resulted in divine retribution. Overcome by grief and anger, the mother seeks revenge, not against the grandfather himself, but against his granddaughter. Despite attempting to justify her actions, she finds that her words go unheard or misunderstood. The tragic tale culminates in the mother carrying out her revenge, killing the granddaughter, leading to inevitable and severe consequences. Speaker 00 describes a series of events involving three individuals, Momin, Fan, and Deodat. Fan has a strong feeling that something is about to happen, while Deodat attempts to make a phone call but is unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Momin's actions are noticed by Fan, leading to a realization by Deodat and others regarding Momin's true intentions. The speaker emphasizes that Momin is acting truthfully, and despite Deodat's attempts to intervene or stop him, these efforts prove to be in vain. The conversation shifts to discussing the actions of Fan and Mom, and their subsequent plans. While the exact nature of Fan's actions remains unspecified, they have clearly led to significant consequences. Mom's involvement is also highlighted, particularly her role in lifting something, Deodat, and the resulting impact. The speakers discuss how these actions brought no benefit and how Deodat was ultimately suppressed. There is a sense of retribution in the air, as one of them remarks, "Today, another revenge has been fulfilled." The discussion then turns to their next steps, with Fan questioning what comes next, while Mom insists that they must double their efforts to atone for their past wrongs. They ultimately decide to take their case to court and ensure that Atmam, presumably an authority figure, is brought to justice. However, due to the language barrier, the exact nature of their actions, Deodat, and the legal implications remain somewhat unclear. The speaker expresses a belief that no matter how many attempts and strategies are used, the truth cannot be completely hidden. Although efforts are being made to suppress it, the ongoing situation is slowly bringing everything to light. The speaker compares the situation to a slow leak, implying that over time, the full extent of the injustice committed against people will be exposed. They conclude by mentioning a statement made by the president.